Okay, for petals 3, 4, and 5, we're going to do the same thing we did for petals 1 and 2. First, we're going to stitch the veins using color 939 with split stitch in certain areas. As you can see here, it's a little thicker, but that's fine. You can keep filling it in with split stitch, so don't worry about it. This part here, just as indicated in the pattern, we're going to leave it unworked, so don't touch it. These divisions you see here are color divisions. They're just a guide so you can see where the yellow goes and which colors we're going to place. I'm always going to start with split stitch. For example, since this is a small pattern, the stitches are going to be small. If it's a slightly larger pattern, you can make the stitches bigger, but don't overdo it because gaps can appear. I'm going to go back to where the vein was. For example, at the end, I want only a small outlined line to remain, so what I'm going to do is insert the needle and pass it underneath the final stitch, or the first stitch. That way it will look a little sharper. I'll continue to move on to the next step. As you can see, I've already finished all the veins using color 939. Now what I'm going to do is outline the adjacent area between petal 3 and 4 and between petal 3 and 5. I'm going to outline all this area here and everything that touches this side as well. I'll always do this with split stitch using a single strand. As you can see, I've already finished outlining the petals, and it's very, very subtle. Now we're going to work on this part here, which is the center of the pansy. We're going to do it first with color 907. This small edge you see here is just going to be a touch of color 581, just a little bit. I've already done 907, and for 581, since it's only a small amount meant to suggest a darker shadow, I'm going to make very short stitches, almost starting them where I finished the 907. As you can see, they're very tiny stitches. Here we're always going to use long and short stitches. Now I'm going to finish this color, and we'll start with the yellow area. This part is marked on the pattern and has 2 divisions. For the first division, we're going to use color 743 for most of the area, and as you get closer to the edge or the margin of the first line, we'll start switching to 744. I finished with these two colors, and now I'm going to start with color 746, right on the second line indicated in the. When you're combining colors that are very contrasting, I recommend starting with lighter colors, because they're easier to blend. Use the irregular stitch blending technique I shared with you. Use whichever variation you prefer. I'll leave the link in the description in case you need it. You can follow the same process I used on these two petals, filling in the spaces within the petal. In this section here, which will be the outer edges, I'm going to place the darker color. I'm marking it so I have a visual reference. $208. I'm going to continue by stitching 746 toward the line, and then I'll use 157, always inserting the needle into the previous color and pulling it toward the other end so the colors blend in. For these darker areas, you can't make an abrupt jump from one color to another. What we do instead is make smaller stitches and create a color sequence. We'll finish with the color that will dominate most of this area. So we'll use small stitches to create a gradual color transition. When we reach the lighter area, the stitches, for example the 157 like I'm doing here, will be longer because we want this lighter color to stay dominant in this section. The stitches will be longer there, and we'll do the same on the other edge. These will be gradual areas. It's perfectly fine if, for example, you place more of one color in another area. That's part of the flower's natural shape. Some areas are darker than others. This actually helps us create a more natural effect. So I'll continue making long stitches on this side of the center and short stitches on the other side, following the color sequence I explained. You'll also have this sequence in the guide. Here I've already placed colors 157 and 794. As you can see, on this side I made very small stitches so you can see the color transition, and I gradually increased the stitch length as I approach the center. Then again, shorter stitches on this side. Now I'm working with color 793, and I'm going to stitch this line so you can see the process. I'll keep working on this section, and I'll see you in part 3.